You think it's harmless, a moment of escape, a fleeting distraction, but the truth is, it's far more sinister than you realize. Beneath the surface of every click, every image, every video lies a trap, one that is not just physical, but spiritual. And with every indulgence, you're losing a piece of yourself, a piece of your divine power. Imagine a great fortress, standing tall, impregnable, the symbol of your soul's strength. Now picture it slowly crumbling, stone by stone, until nothing but rubble remains. This is what pornography does to your spirit. It starts as a small crack in the foundation, a harmless desire, a moment of curiosity, but it grows, it spreads, it infects everything, until the walls that once stood strong are weakened, and you are left vulnerable to the dark forces that lie in wait. You might not feel it right away, but every time you give in, every time you seek that temporary pleasure, you're not just feeding your body, you're feeding something much darker, something that doesn't just take your time or your energy, but your very essence. It's a slow, insidious erosion of your divine power, and it's happening right under your nose, often unnoticed, until one day you wake up and you don't recognize the person in the mirror. This is not just about self-control. This is about reclaiming what has been stolen from you. This is about awakening to the truth of who you are and the immense power that lies within you. But first, you must see the trap for what it is. And in seeing it, you must choose, will you continue to surrender, or will you rise up and take back your power? 1. The illusion of freedom. The promise of freedom is the most seductive lie pornography offers. It's sold as a way to escape, a quick route to pleasure, and the illusion of control. The idea that you can indulge in these moments of release, that they'll free you from the stresses and challenges of life, seems like a pathway to liberation. But in reality, this so-called freedom is a prison built from your own desire. When you give in, you don't experience freedom, you experience enslavement. The first time you click, it feels like a choice, a way to break away, a temporary relief from your burdens, but that choice is a lie. The more you engage, the more you condition your mind to seek that same escape, reinforcing the idea that it's your only way to cope. It's like putting on handcuffs, convinced you're free, all the while the chains grow tighter with every act. This freedom comes with a heavy price. Instead of liberating you, pornography binds you to your lower impulses, reinforcing a cycle that keeps you trapped in the moment of instant gratification. It convinces you that you're in control, because you can choose when to engage. But the truth is that your desire has become the master, not the servant. It doesn't free you from stress or pain. It numbs you to it temporarily, only for the anxiety and emptiness to return with greater force. And the cycle continues. Each indulgence feeds the next, and the illusion of freedom tightens its grip. True freedom doesn't come from indulgence, but from mastery. Mastery over your desires, your mind and your spirit. The illusion of freedom in pornography tricks you into believing you're escaping, but in reality, you're being led into deeper bondage. The more you give in, the less control you have, until you're completely enslaved to the fleeting pleasure, unable to break free. Pornography offers a mirage of freedom, but it strips away your most powerful resource, your divine energy. The true power to live freely comes from overcoming your impulses, not by surrendering to them. When you begin to see pornography for what it is, a trap masquerading as freedom, only then can you break the chains and reclaim your real power. The road to true freedom is not paved with indulgence, but with discipline and self-awareness. 2. The descent into darkness. The descent into darkness is a slow, silent process, one that begins with a single step, often disguised as curiosity or harmless pleasure. You might think you can control it, that one glimpse won't hurt, but the truth is, the moment you open the door to pornography, you're inviting a force into your life that will take more than you ever intended to give. At first, the experience feels innocent, even thrilling. It's a way to escape, to release stress, or to satisfy an urge without consequence. But this initial sense of control is an illusion. The darkness creeps in unnoticed, working its way into your thoughts, your habits, your self-perception. It doesn't come like an overwhelming wave, but like the steady drip of water, wearing down rock. Slowly, your defenses weaken. As you indulge, your mind becomes conditioned. What once seemed shocking or foreign now becomes familiar. The images become more graphic, the fantasies more extreme, until the simple pleasure of release no longer satisfies. The search for something more intense, something darker, becomes a compulsion, and each time you give in, the power you once had over your desires slips further from your grasp. The trap isn't just about physical addiction, it's spiritual. The deeper you sink, the further you distance yourself from your true self. You begin to lose the connection to your divine power, to your soul's deeper purpose. Pornography isn't just an external force you engage with, it becomes internalized, poisoning the way you see yourself and others. The purity of your thoughts, your relationships, and your self-respect erode, replaced by shame, isolation, and a sense of emptiness. With each indulgence, you feel less powerful, more like a prisoner to a cycle you can't break. The descent into darkness isn't swift, it's a gradual loss of light. You might even think you can stop at any time, that you're still in control, but in truth, the trap has already closed around you. The darkness doesn't just stay on the screen, it embeds itself into your soul, twisting your perception of yourself, your desires, and your relationship. The price is far higher than you could have ever anticipated, and the worst part is that the more you indulge, the harder it becomes to escape. The darkness doesn't let go easily, but acknowledging it is the first step, because only by facing it can you begin the climb back to the light. 3. The power of the mind in the war for your thoughts. The battle for your soul begins in your mind. Your thoughts are the gateway to your actions, and the mind is the battlefield where everything starts. Every decision you make, every action you take, begins as a thought, and yet, we often underestimate the power of those thoughts. Your mind is not just a passive receiver of information, it's a powerful force that shapes your reality. Thoughts are like seeds. When planted, they grow into beliefs, habits, and ultimately the life you experience. But what happens when those seeds are toxic? What happens when those seeds are planted with intentions that don't align with your divine purpose? They grow into destructive patterns that hijack your soul and lead you down a path of spiritual decay. Pornography doesn't just appeal to your physical desires. It speaks directly to your mind. It infiltrates your thoughts, distorting your perception of yourself and your reality. It's not just about the image on the screen, it's about what that image does to your mind. Every time you indulge, you invite thoughts into your head that weren't yours to begin with. You begin to define your worth by fleeting pleasure, eroding your true sense of identity and divine potential. This is not just an issue of willpower, it's a war for your mind. Forces beyond your control are fighting to control your thoughts, to plant ideas, to influence your decisions. These forces use distractions like pornography to occupy your mind with shallow, empty desires, which weaken your focus and steal your spiritual energy. To reclaim your divine power, you must first recognize that every thought is a battlefield. What you allow to enter your mind has a direct impact on your spiritual well-being. Neville Goddard, a visionary in understanding the power of thought, spoke of the mind as a creative force, stating that the mind is the cause of all conditions in your life. If you don't guard your thoughts, if you don't direct them toward higher purposes, they will be hijacked by desires that distance you from your higher self. This is why the war for your thoughts is so critical. To be truly free, you must reclaim control over your mind, steering it away from the illusions of temporary pleasure and towards the deeper, more fulfilling truths of your divine nature. Only then can you break the chains and truly awaken to the power you were meant to wield. The hidden forces behind pornography. Pornography is not simply a product of human desire. It's a carefully crafted tool, designed to manipulate and control. Behind the glossy images and seductive videos lies a deeper, darker force at work. This force operates not just on a physical level, but on a spiritual one, silently drawing you into a cycle of addiction and disempowerment. It's a subtle but powerful force that seeks to disconnect you from your higher self, robbing you of the very essence that gives you strength, purpose, and divine power. The first hidden force is the manipulation of the mind. Pornography doesn't just stimulate the body, it hijacks the brain, rewiring it to crave instant gratification. It taps into the deepest, most primal instincts, triggering the release of dopamine, the chemical responsible for pleasure and reward. Over time, the brain becomes desensitized, requiring more extreme content to achieve the same level of stimulation. But this isn't just a mental addiction, it's a spiritual erosion. As the mind becomes fixated on instant pleasure, it begins to lose its ability to focus on higher, more meaningful goals. You're left chasing fleeting highs, while your soul withers in silence. The second force is the spiritual entities that thrive on human weakness. The consumption of pornography opens spiritual portals that invite negative energies into your life. These forces feed on the low vibrational energy created by indulgence in such acts. Lust, shame, and guilt form a toxic spiritual cocktail that makes you more susceptible to these negative influences. They thrive in the shadows, feeding on your spiritual hunger, turning your inner world into chaos. What you don't see is that pornography is not just an individual battle. It's part of a larger, unseen spiritual war. Next, there's the force of social and cultural conditioning. Society has normalized pornography to the point where it's often seen as a harmless vice, a rite of passage, or even a source of empowerment. This normalization is a subtle form of control, convincing you that indulging in pornography is natural, even necessary. But the reality is this conditioning is stripping away your spiritual vitality, leaving you detached from the sacred and the divine. The more you consume, the more you are bound to a lower frequency of existence, where true connection and purpose become distant memory. Lastly, the hidden force behind pornography is the theft of your energy and vitality. Each time you engage in it, you're giving away your vital life force, your spiritual energy. What's meant to be channeled into creation, personal growth, and connection is instead siphoned off, leaving you spiritually drained, disconnected from your higher calling, and vulnerable to external influence. The hidden forces behind pornography are not merely about indulgence or addiction. They are about the systematic erosion of your spiritual power. Recognizing these forces is the first step in reclaiming your soul and breaking free from the trap that seeks to destroy you from within. The disconnect from your higher self. Pornography doesn't just feed your body with momentary pleasure. It chips away at something much deeper, the connection to your higher self. Your higher self is that inner core of wisdom, strength, and divine purpose that connects you to the true essence of who you are. It is the part of you that knows your worth, your mission, and the deep well of potential within you. But when you indulge in pornography, you actively disconnect from this powerful source. Every time you submit to the temptation, you choose the lower, reactive part of your nature. The more you indulge, the louder these base desires become, drowning out the quiet voice of your higher self. It's not just a matter of physical desire, it's a spiritual displacement. You begin to live in a perpetual state of distraction, seeking external fulfillment that never truly satisfies. Your divine essence starts to fade into the background, muffled by the noise of addiction. This disconnect doesn't happen overnight. At first, it may seem like an isolated choice, a brief detour, but over time, each indulgence creates a deeper divide between you and your true self. The higher frequencies of your soul are replaced with the lower vibrations of instant gratification. Your intuition, which once guided you with clarity, becomes clouded. The purpose you once felt so strongly within you begins to feel distant, even unreachable. When you feed the addiction, you feed a part of yourself that is untrue. It's a false identity, rooted in shame, self-deception, and hollow desires. The longer you allow this, the more entrenched you become in a cycle of disconnection. The gap between your physical existence and your spiritual self widens, leaving you feeling lost, empty, and unfulfilled. This is not just an emotional or mental issue, it's a spiritual one. Your divine power is linked to your alignment with your higher self, with the wisdom and strength that flow from that connection. Pornography in its most insidious form pulls you away from that truth. It steals the clarity you need to fulfill your highest potential. To reconnect with your higher self, you must recognize the consequences of this disconnection. You must reclaim the strength to face temptation head-on and begin the process of healing. The moment you choose to rise above the trap, you begin to restore the connection to your true essence, reclaiming your divine power with every step. 6. The loss of divine power. Every time you indulge in pornography, you make a subtle yet profound exchange. The fleeting pleasure it provides seems harmless, but what it quietly demands in return is far greater than most ever realize. Your divine power. Your divine power is the energy, the strength, and the connection to your higher self, the force that propels you towards your purpose, your calling, and your true potential. It is the spark that allows you to rise above base desires, to act with clarity and conviction, and to remain aligned with your higher nature. This power is sacred. It's a gift not just of your body, but of your spirit. But with every indulgence in pornography, you chip away at this power, slowly but surely. When you engage with porn, you are surrendering your sacred energy to something that has no intention of empowering you. It lures you into a false sense of satisfaction while weakening the very essence of your being. Each time you give in, you're further disconnecting yourself from your true self. Instead of tapping into your divine energy, you're feeding a lower, destructive part of your nature that only brings emptiness. This loss doesn't always show up immediately. It's gradual. At first, you may feel an initial surge of release or pleasure, but over time, it creates a spiritual void. It dims your sense of purpose and clouds your clarity. The more you engage in this act, the more you surrender your will to a cycle that ultimately robs you of the power to make decisions, to focus, and to elevate yourself. It builds a wall between you and your higher calling. Your energy, which could be used to create, to serve, and to uplift, becomes trapped in a cycle of degradation. This is not just about guilt or shame, it's deeper than that. It's the quiet theft of your vitality, the power to change, to grow, and to transform your life. You might find yourself feeling weaker, more apathetic, or disconnected from your goals and relationships. The constant drain on your spiritual reserves causes your motivation to fade. Your creativity, your sense of self-worth, and your connection to your higher purpose are all compromised, leaving you in a state of perpetual stagnation. Pornography doesn't just rob you of your energy, it blocks the flow of your divine power, leaving you spiritually barren and unable to fully step into your potential. This isn't a matter of willpower alone. It's about reclaiming the very essence of who you are and awakening to the strength that lies dormant within. 7. The illusion of control. The illusion of control is one of the most dangerous traps pornography creates. At first, it feels like a simple choice, a personal decision, a harmless indulgence. You might believe you have full control over it, that you can stop whenever you want, that you are the master of your own desires. But here lies the deception. Control is not what you have. In reality, it's controlling you. You see, addiction doesn't announce itself as an enemy. It enters quietly, disguised as something you can control, something you can manage. But with every encounter, you give away a piece of yourself. It's like holding onto a thread thinking you have the rope, but the more you hold on, the tighter the thread gets. You believe you are pulling yourself out, but the truth is, you are only pulling yourself deeper into the trap. When you indulge, you might convince yourself that it's just a temporary release, a quick fix to soothe stress, anxiety, or boredom. But the more you give in, the more that illusion fades. What starts as a simple escape turns into a hunger, a craving, a need that demands satisfaction every time. The control you thought you had begins to slip away. The desire grows stronger, and soon, you are no longer the one making decisions. It's the addiction that decides for you. It is this slow surrender of control that is the true danger. Pornography doesn't just take over your body, it invades your mind. It rewires your brain, making it harder to resist, harder to break free. You are no longer in charge of your actions. The addiction, and the more you indulge, the more you feed the lie that you are in control, until one day you realize that the choices you thought you were making were never yours to begin with. What you're left with is a shadow of your true self, someone trapped in a cycle, thinking they are free, but ultimately bound. True control comes not from indulgence, but from mastery over yourself. True power lies in the ability to walk away, to reclaim your energy, your focus, and your mind. It is only when you realize the illusion that you can start to regain what has been taken from you, your strength, your self-respect, and your divine power. 8. The nature of addiction. The slow surrender of power. Addiction is never a single moment of weakness. It is the slow surrender of power, piece by piece. It begins subtly, often disguised as a harmless choice, a temptation you think you can control. But in reality, it's a process of your will being chipped away until one day you realize you're no longer in control. You are being controlled. Pornography addiction is one of the most deceptive forms of this. At first, you may tell yourself it's just a distraction, a way to relieve stress or satisfy curiosity. But addiction thrives in that lie. It feeds on the idea that you can stop whenever you want. What you don't realize is that every indulgence weakens your boundaries, dulls your spiritual clarity, and erodes your strength. It becomes a cycle that grows stronger with each round, pulling you deeper into its grasp, making it harder to break free with every passing moment. This surrender is not always obvious. The process is gradual. It's a daily choice, not a single catastrophic event, that causes the shift. One click becomes two. One episode turns into an hour. The line between control and obsession begins to blur. And with each choice, your energy shifts from you to the addiction, until you're no longer driven by your own will, but by a compulsion that consumes you from the inside out. The true cost of addiction, especially to something as spiritually corrosive as pornography, is much deeper than the physical act. Addiction steals your attention, your energy, your focus, and your sense of self-worth. It distracts you from your higher calling, disconnecting you from your divine purpose. You no longer operate with a clear mind, a strong spirit, or an unwavering sense of power. Instead, you're shackled to an illusion, giving your life force away to something that only leaves you empty and unfulfilled. Every moment spent in the grip of addiction is a moment you lose to the spiritual darkness. It chips away at your vitality, subtly but surely, until you're nothing more than a shadow of your true self. This slow surrender of power isn't just about losing control, it's about giving away the very essence of who you are. And once that power is gone, reclaiming it becomes the hardest battle you'll ever fight. 9. Spiritual warfare and the need for awakening. Spiritual warfare is not a battle fought with physical weapons or visible enemies. It's an unseen war waged within your mind, heart, and soul. Every temptation, every moment of weakness, every choice to indulge in that which undermines your higher purpose is a skirmish in this battle. The enemy is not external, but internal. The forces within you that seek to disconnect you from your divine essence, your true power. And the battlefield, it's your consciousness. Pornography is one of the most effective weapons used in this spiritual war. It is a tool designed to deceive, to keep you distracted from your higher calling, to pull you further into the depths of your lower desires. Each time you give in, you weaken your spiritual defenses, allowing negative forces to infiltrate your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. It's a battle for your mind, and your soul is at stake. But this war is not lost unless you surrender. The key to victory lies in awakening. Awakening to the reality that you are more than your desires, that your true power is not in indulgence, but in mastery. Awakening means recognizing that the forces trying to pull you down are not invincible. They thrive on your ignorance, on your complacency. The moment you wake up to this truth, you begin to reclaim your power. Awakening is the first step in turning the tide of this war. It's about taking a stand against the temptations that seek to weaken you. It's about understanding that spiritual strength comes not from giving in, but from resisting, from rising above the distractions and illusions that seek to steal your light. The war is real, but so is your power to win it. 10. The path to redemption. Reclaiming your divine power. The path to redemption is not a distant dream. It's a reality within your grasp, but only if you are willing to walk it. Reclaiming your divine power begins with a single profound choice. The choice to stop living in the shadows, to stop surrendering your strength to fleeting desire. It requires you to stand firm in the face of temptation and choose what is sacred over what is easy. First, recognize that the battle begins within your mind. The thoughts you entertain, the desires you nourish, determine the direction of your life. Take control of your thoughts, and you take control of your destiny. If you want to reclaim your divine power, start by mastering your mind. Shift your focus away from the things that diminish your spirit, and direct your energy toward what uplifts and empowers you. Replace old habits with new, healthier routines. Your mind will fight back, that's inevitable, but persistence is key. Every moment of resistance strengthens your will. Next, seek true connection. Pornography isolates, pulling you further from meaningful relationships, from your true self, and from your connection to a higher power. To reclaim your power, you must rebuild your relationships with yourself, with others, and with the divine. Find mentors, surround yourself with individuals who encourage growth, and engage in spiritual practices that nourish your soul. Finally, remember that redemption is a process, not an event. It's about small victories over time, each one a step closer to the full restoration of your strength. Reconnect with your higher purpose, tap into your inner power, and break free from the chains that bind you. Redemption isn't about perfection, but about progress, and the journey begins now, with your decision to rise. The truth is, reclaiming your divine power is not an overnight journey. It's a constant battle that demands courage, self-awareness, and unwavering commitment. Every step you take towards breaking free from the spiritual trap of pornography is a step toward rediscovering who you truly are, a being of immense potential, creativity, and divine energy. The chains that once held you down can be broken. The fortress of your soul can be rebuilt stronger than ever before. but only if you make the choice to rise. You've seen the truth now. You've glimpsed the destructive forces at work. You've felt the weight of what it costs to indulge in the lie of temporary pleasure. But the path to redemption is yours to walk, and it begins with your decision to break free, to stop allowing your power to be siphoned away. It is in this moment of choice, of conscious awakening, that you can step into the fullness of your divine potential. The light within you is more powerful than any darkness, that it can only shine when you nurture it, protect it, and refuse to let it be diminished by what is fleeting and false. No more lies, no more surrender. The power to change, to heal, and to rise above is already within you. All that is required is your willingness to act, to commit, and to never look back. The divine force within you is waiting to be awakened, and the moment you choose to reclaim it, that's the moment you take back your life, your power, and your destiny. It's time. The path to your redemption begins now. Will you walk it? Will you rise and reclaim what is rightfully yours? The power is yours to take.